It's been a year since we last seen much from Nexon's latest RPG, Vindictus Defying Fate, and it's a game I've been quite interested in since my last review of the pre-alpha. But today, I'm diving into something pretty exciting that thanks to the Steam's Next Fest and as well as the Summer's Games Fest, I was able to get an actual hands-on feel for the alpha test for Vindictus Defying Fate. This is not just a quick peek, I've actually spent some serious time with it, and I'm honestly ready to break down what I've seen so far. Now, for those of you who might not know, Vindictus Defying Fate is an action RPG Souls-like that's currently in alpha. It's built on Unreal Engine 5. I've actually been following this one since its pre-alpha, so it's been really cool to see its evolution. And let me tell you, it's definitely come a long way. So what I want you to do is sit back, relax, grab some snacks, because I'm going to give you my thoughts and structure this into about 4 main chapters, right? I want to talk about the gameplay, visuals, audio, touch base on the performance issues, and finally just wrap it up with my overall impressions and hopes for the future. So let's kick things off with the core part of most RPGs, the gameplay. Right off the bat, you're presented with 4 distinctive classes. We got a dual-wielding swordsman, a sword and shield user, a berserker, and then this absolute unit of a tank that wields a literal pillar for a weapon. And a quick note, like interjection side note, we gotta put a pin in it. Those classes are gender locked. So for all of my peeps out there who hate gender lock, you're probably gonna have an issue with Vindictus, right? Because you really only get 2 waifus, 2 husbandos to choose from. Now, speaking of choices though, character customization though was surprisingly robust. I spent a good amount of time there. Let's just say this game basically allows you to have some creative expressions and a little bit of gooning activity. But I'm pretty sure we all had some fun with the character creator. But moving on from the character creation, the tutorial, which was a point of discussion in the pre-alpha, has significantly improved. It is much more streamlined and actually teaches you the rope effectively now. And that right there, I got to give them some form of props, because it was very jarring hopping into the pre-alpha, and it was just like, hey, kill this monster, kill this. It was like a boss rush, essentially. So there's definitely big improvement there. Now, what is new for this alpha that was not also in the pre-alpha is, of course, the starting town village. Now, this really grounds you in the world and gives you a sense of what's happening. Though I do have to say, since the actual prologue is not in this alpha, some of the story beats felt a little disconnected. Now, yeah, it is a bit like jumping into the middle of a movie, but it does give you a taste of the narrative direction. Now, we also have a proper map now, which is great to see. There's a fast travel between the locations that you find and some of the campsites. Overall, that is a massive quality of life improvement coming from pre-alpha to the main alpha. And as well as, speaking of campsites, like I said, this game will basically give you a reminiscence of Dark Souls, because those campsites are very similar to bonfires. If you die, you will be revived there, and then you can also manage your gear and storage from that as well. And also, cannot forget about the fitting room, because oh lord, lordy, players going to be spending so much time there. Not only can you customize your existing gear, which I had a blast. I turned the base weapon you get, and it's this nice red and black type of feel to it. It looks fucking clean. But not only can you do that, you can also buy cosmetic outfits with the in-game currency called Hanner. Now, this gold currency can be found by like looting chests, finding particular items on the ground, or just beating specific enemies. Plus, you also can utilize some of that currency to like help you with the blacksmith, enhance your gear. You can equip specific dyes, so you can really personalize your look. So yes, there is a general lock for the character creator, but you can overall customize them as much as you would like. Now, customization though does seem to be a big of a focus, which is great. But the next big focus we got to talk about is the combat. Now, this is a much more refined part of combat since the pre-alpha. It feels a lot more impactful overall. Healing, however, is a slow burn until you're able to unlock the skill that actually allows it to actually do a decent chunk of healing. Now, the best way to feel like this is reminiscent of is really reminds me of Dark Souls 2. Healing stones, right? They had that gradual health regeneration, probably one of the bigger complaints of Dark Souls 2, but then you get the flask, which was used for like a quick burst of healing. Now, this does add a layer of tension overall to your fights, as well as the combos are fun to pull off. I do wish there was a proper parry system, not just deflecting, but they do have a stun meter for enemies, which is pretty awesome to have, leading to those satisfying like execution moves you're able to do like crazy damage, right? Now, for the bosses, because like I said, you will be fighting lots and lots of bosses, they do have particular, gimmicks to them, right? So theoretically, you would see two specific colors appear on a boss. There's a yellow icon that would indicate that the attack that he's going to throw next is unblockable, so you will need to dodge that attack. And if you see a blue icon, you must parry that attack to allow you to do staggered damage. Now, it definitely does keep you on your toes, and it makes it hard because some of these bosses will throw different types of attacks. There's also the red icon, which basically means you cannot dodge nor parry it. You just need to just get the hell out of there, right? The game literally says like, don't even attempt it, just dip, right? So it's actually pretty awesome when the bosses actually throw many of these in, because it keeps you literally on your toes, especially once you get to one of the final bosses that I had a trouble with in the last one. So it's just like, man, this is a pain in the ass. Now, overall progression, there is a pretty big skill tree, but what is interesting there is that there are two trees to deal with. There's one exclusive to your character, and there's a shared one, which, if my theory is correct, it is basically for your other characters, because that ties into something else that was also really cool that I did not see in the pre-alpha, which is the follower system. Remember how I told you that the character choice is very gender locked? Well, you can actually bring along any of the other characters that you did not choose to start off with as followers. And even better, you can actually switch your main character mid-game. It makes sense why there's a shared skill tree then, because whatever you unlocked for there, it unlocks for everybody. Then you can just utilize your level up points to be able to just upgrade their exclusive skills, right? So that's actually pretty good, but it all just clicks together. This alpha test is definitely a much more fleshed out experience than the pre-alpha, which felt more like a combat demo. This alpha truly shows what players will be doing in the final game, and it's just been fascinating to watch the game evolve. But let's shift gears a little bit. Let's move on a little bit to the visuals and audio. And honestly, visually, the game is actually a treat to look at. They've clearly improved a lot since the pre-alpha. Unreal Engine 5 is really doing some serious heavy lifting here. So it's just overall like the environment's like crazily detailed. The character models look fantastic. And I say fantastic in more ways than one. And do I really have to bring it up for those who will appreciate it? Yes. The jiggle physics are quite pronounced. They are definitely there. For the gooning kings out there, you will be pleased with this game. Now, overall, the cutscenes are generally just impressive, very high detail. They got really real well direction on them. It didn't get this level of cinematic storytelling in the pre-alpha. It was mostly just combative cutscenes. But what I really love about them is that they're all in engine. So there is actually a constant visual quality between gameplay cutscenes. There's no jarring transitions. And that's just a huge plus for immersion, man. Speaking of immersion, the UI is also super clean and just super simple. And of course, coming from an MMO background, like some other games that I will talk about in a second, to a single player experience like this, it is definitely a refreshing change. It actually makes me think about the future games in this genre, thinking like Crimson Desert. Another, like Pearl Abyss has Black Desert Online and they're making Crimson Desert. And then we have Nexon, who did Vindictus, of course, and is now making Defying Fate. So like, they're coming from an MMO background to a single player experience, and they're actually doing a really well job. It's intuitive without being just overly complex. And of course, the sound. Now, the audio design in this game is pretty decent. The voice acting for the NPCs is actually really good, which really helps bring the world to life. But for me, it's the combat sounds where, when you swing your sword, you really feel the heft, the weight of the blade. When you make contact, it's like a real satisfying like thwack, or like a real, like you can really feel that impact when it lands. It just adds so much to all of your attacks, and you really feel like you're just doing some damage. The soundtrack, though, I'm a little bit on the I'm iffy on it, right? Because when you're in the main town, you get this beautiful, very harmonious, and it just perfectly captures like this fantasy feel, and it really sets the mood for like exploration and combat. But then when I'm in the given combative areas, there's not really much going on. Now, of course, I could be a little bit spoiled from playing a lot of other RPGs out there that have better combat soundtracks, but it's just, I feel like that can use just a little bit more work when we're in combative moments, and the soundtrack really picks up to like really give you that heat of the moment. So that is my little gripe about that. But speaking of gripes, I am actually really pissed at this point. We get to the overall performance and technical issues. Now, yes, this is an alpha test, and with alphas comes definitely some rough edges. The biggest issue that I encountered consistently was stuttering, and definitely in a lot of areas of the game, I've experienced some pretty heavy frame drops as well. It's not really like game breaking, but it's super noticeable, right? Especially during like intense combat encounters. Like I've died quite a few times because the random sudden drop of frame rate, or like my reaction time couldn't be good enough because the frames are dropping, right? And my next big thing that kind of pissed me off, and what made this review come out a little bit later than it needed to, is that this is also the first game I've ever played that actually made me have to roll back my NVIDIA drivers just to get it to run consistently. Now, that is actually quite a unique issue to encounter for an alpha, but hopefully it's something that gets ironed out as they optimize it further. But it definitely does highlight that it is still a work in progress, which is also quite important to remember. Aside from the performance hiccups, the overall stability was decent for an alpha. I did get a lot of like crashes, but it was only because of the driver issue. But other than that, it is worth reiterating that these are something you would experience when you're playing alphas, right? A lot of people will skip, alphas until beta is out or until the actual full game. But when you're playing these games in there, you're going to see some issues. So there are surveys that players can take to be able to tell the dev teams like, hey, this is going on. So hopefully through my voice with this video, they can just see through my gameplay and just what I'm saying, to be able to, as my way of being able to help make this game even better than what it will be. But of course, the whole point of an alpha test is to find these kinds of problems so they can be addressed before launch. I am optimistic that with more optimization, these will be less of a concern, but we haven't seen any signs of monetization in the alpha build, which is a good sign for now. There is, like I said, it's for now. We don't know. We do know Nexon can be a lot crazy when it comes to monetization and cash out purchases. And I also noticed that there's like this battle pass system called the Cabrim supplies. But what was the plot twist behind that is that it's actually tied to the reputation of your character by doing missions and different stuff in the game. So you earn rewards and not purchases. So right now there are no cash shop nightmares, so to speak, in the alpha stage. Now that may change by the time beta and full launch, but if they can do this right, they don't really need to, right? And I love with the fitting room idea when it comes to the monetization, because it's like you can use your in-game currency to buy different outfits for your characters. So I feel like that is a very smart thing to do. And if they keep this route, this game may not be free to play. It may be a $40 experience, so to speak. So bringing it all together, my overall impressions of the Vindictus Defying Fate's alpha test, for me, it's very positive, right? This alpha has definitely shown a much more complete vision for the game than the pre-alpha did. It's clear they're focusing on delivering a full action RPG Souls-like experience and not just some combat arena. The core combat is quite solid. The world building is actually starting to take shape. The customization options are a huge plus. It is genuinely fun. The performance issues, the combat loop is engaging, The world they're building is intriguing. The follower system and the ability to swap main characters actually is a really clever design choice that adds some form of replayability and a different strategic depth when it comes to handling bosses. And just seeing a game get fleshed out through these different testing phases is actually always a cool experience. While some of the early boss routes are very similar to the pre-alpha, the context and surrounding elements that makes it feel a lot fresh. So looking ahead, my hopes for the final release, first and foremost, is optimization. We need to start ironing out these stuttering and frame rate issues. It's very crucial, as well as making sure that they are working properly for NVIDIA and hell, even AMD drivers. Not everyone truly knows about everybody don't have the technical knowledge to actually roll back drivers. And then you got a lot of people who probably just started playing this game, probably didn't even dig deep and didn't even know that. Like, I took me going into the Steam's announcements to actually see why my game kept crashing. But some people don't do that. We can't think of the majority that will think about that. But beyond that, I'm really excited to see the full story unfold with the prologue also integrated. I want to understand the lore and the motivations behind everything we've seen so far. The story is definitely a big one. Hopefully, and it will be a dream, but a parry system, a proper parry system. But even without it, the combat is still a blast to do. I'm also curious to see how they expand on the skill trees and what kind of in-game content they have planned, like more unique bosses, more varied zones, and that's what I'm hoping for, right? All in all, I understand that Nexon is not the creme de crop anymore, but hey, this could be their chance to try to get their shit back on track. So Vindictus Defying Fate is shaping up to be a really promising action RPG Souls-like. It has a strong foundation. If they address the technical hiccups and continue to build on what they have, it could just be a fun experience, maybe a $30, $40 game. Take the monetization out, get us a actual decent game to have fun with. But I am definitely keeping my close eye on this one. If you do get a chance to try it out in any future tests or even play it during the current test, it is sitting at Steam. You can definitely go try it out. I definitely highly at least attempt trying it out. Use this review as a way to make sure you don't run into those problems. If you need to roll back your drivers if you updated your NVIDIA drivers to 576, roll it back to 572. You should be perfectly fine from there. But as always, thanks for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe to the channel for more reviews and like the episode. It helps the channel. But as always, stay safe out there. And it's been your host, KSDTV, signing out. Peace.